Welcome to Eat Well, Travel Often, a podcast about food, travel, the environment, mind, body, and spirit. I'm Melissa Goldberg, and over the course of my adult life, I've been focused on how to build an integrated community around food, health, wellness, and the environment. These are all related. Understanding these interrelationships helps us look at life as a holistic system and teaches us how to connect with each other to create a loving and thriving community. On Eat Well, Travel Often, I talk to farmers, foragers, cookbook authors, doctors, scientists, and entrepreneurs. All have one thing in common. The people I speak with are trying to better everyone's lives through their work and passion. These are the people who inspire me to be a better person. I hope to share with you my curiosity from everything from book to plate. And the goal of these conversations are to inspire you to eat well and travel often. Medicine has always been Dr. Mona's passion, and family medicine in particular provides her an opportunity to develop meaningful, long-term relationships with their patients. As a young medical student, Dr. Mona was fascinated with the work of Dr. Andrew Weil and the idea of helping the body to achieve balance naturally. She went through her own health issues, including treatment for thyroid cancer, and started searching for answers as to why and how she developed the illness. Dr. Mona wanted to know what she could do to heal and how to stay healthy throughout her life. This led her to functional medicine. She felt the earth move with the knowledge. It was the first time she could see the deep connection of health and well-being, how to think of the body as an intimate conversation with many systems working together. Dr. Mona began to realize that gut health was critical. After years of issues with digestion, she started to closely examine her diet, focusing on vegetables, healthy proteins and fats, and cooking more at home. She started to do diagnostic tests to find her systematic imbalances. She cut down on coffee and prioritized getting more sleep to help her adrenal system from the stresses of years of medical training and practice. The results were amazing. She was able to go on to have healthy twins and to pursue this area of medicine fully. I met Dr. Mona in February at the Flow Genome Project retreat in California. She spoke to us about the importance of overall wellness to improve quality of life. Stay tuned to the Book to Plate segment where I talk about Jamie Wheal's book, Stealing Fire, and the reason why I went to the Flow Genome Project retreat. Thank you, Dr. Mona, for taking the time to talk to me. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So you're a physician that practices functional medicine and holistic medicine. What does that exactly mean?
Yeah, great question. So, I'm a medical doctor, so traditionally trained through medical school and residency, and then just found that I needed some more tools in the toolbox, more ways to help people achieve better health. And it also for my own health to kind of deepen that. So I started looking into different ways of healing. And that led me initially to integrative medicine, which is very much looking at mind-body connection, looking at different ways to help people kind of rebalance. And then I was introduced to functional medicine through one of those conferences. And functional medicine, I would describe as a kind of a very deep root cause analysis for health. So we look at the gut microbiome, we look at digestive capacity about certain foods that are, kind of more beneficial for you as a person versus other foods. We look at your hormonal balance, everything from thyroid to sex hormones to your adrenals, and then, broadening that picture to heart health and how that is connected to your stress and your sleep and, even brain health and same kind of components. So the deeper layer is that lifestyle makes a difference and makes a big difference in how you stay healthy over the short term and the long term.
So back in the 1990s, I saw this movie, Mind Walk. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's based on a Freehoff Capra book. And basically, in a nutshell, it said it was three people at the Mont Saint Michel in France, and they were talking about the difference between mechanistic way of looking and a holistic way. And that kind of sounds like what functional medicine is. You look at the whole person and not just the root of the cause. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
Was there something in your life that led you on this path to go from the traditional way to this way of practicing medicine?
Yeah, so I was always interested in integrative medicine since medical school. One of my best friends in medical school, she and I would, read books about Andrew Weil and what he was doing and how he was incorporating different herbs for treatments. And then as I finished residency, I did a 1.5 years of locum tenens work where I lived in different places where they needed help with doctors. And one of those locations was on a Navajo Indian reservation, where I got a chance to see some of the traditional healing that was done in the community, which was really powerful and fascinating for me to learn, especially coming out of a very, high-tech program where I was at in Michigan. We had a lot of people, flown into the University of Michigan because we had so many great specialists and a lot of really highly specialized equipment that would provide care for people that they couldn't get in other places. And then to kind of see how people healed in a community in the Navajo upper area of Arizona was a really different experience for me that I loved. And then as I started my own practice, I was working hard for a good 8 years into my practice. And then I had my own health issues. I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer in my mid-30s. And this really just came as a shock. No family history for cancer, no kind of risk factors for cancer. I'm not a smoker, never was a smoker. I thought I lived a really healthy lifestyle, but probably a lot of stress that I had, not a lot of sleep, especially being a doctor and in training, you just get used to not having a lot of sleep. So that really stopped me in my tracks because no one could really tell me why I had this, and I really wanted to know why. And that got me started into, again, integrative and functional medicine, started attending more conferences to learn not only to find out why, but also how to heal myself from that experience.
So I actually have two questions based on that. One is, what were some of the traditional medicines that were used on these reservations?
Well, a lot of it was herbal, so different herbs that were available around the area that they would compound and use either topically or into a tea. And then the other part really was the power of community. So there was, I attended one program, which was a fire dance. One of the women in the reservation had been diagnosed with cancer. So they were doing this gathering to really support her and wish her well. So I had asked our attending physician at the clinic if I could attend with her. And there were probably about 250 people who were there singing, chanting, dancing, all wishing her well. And I think, that's a very powerful component for us to be able to heal.
It's like the mind-body connection.
Exactly. And having, that community energy. I mean, there are studies shown that when people pray for you or they send, kind of positive energy, that there is a healing component to that you feel, and it boosts your immune system, similar to, what meditation does for us, and getting good sleep and just having that grounded feeling and connectedness can also boost your immune system.
In terms of your personal experience with the thyroid cancer, because I've actually was recently diagnosed, I do have a nodule and I can't do anything about it right now because we're locked down. Were you able to heal yourself through different ways, or did you have to have your thyroid removed?
I did have surgery. So I had my entire thyroid removed, and then I had follow-up was the radioactive iodine treatment. which was a whole other story because
right.
I had a lot of GI problems after that. I mean, it's basically a bomb to kill off your entire microbiome. And, at the time when I was being treated, there wasn't really a lot of thought about the microbiome. We didn't know that much about it. We didn't know how powerful it is. And so after that treatment, I had so many problems, and I would go to the specialists and they didn't really know what to do with me. So again, that's how I started to do my own testing, started to try different modalities, met a lot of great people who helped to guide me, people who had gone through it themselves and had more experience, and they would just guide me along onto what I needed to do. And, it snowballed from there. Once you start to learn these types of techniques, you just want to learn more. And that's really been my path of just trying to continue to expand my knowledge to know what the latest science is, how to use it, who to use it for. Because, that's the other component of this is really a personalized approach. So not every patient's going to be the same. Not everyone's going to need the same treatment. We, learn about what your family history is, what your kind of baseline health is, and then we figure out, well, what are the best things and what are the key components that would really improve your trajectory.
Well, talking about the individual, you have a special way of treating a patient or mapping it out. How do you do that? Like a patient comes in and they say, I have this issue or this issue. How does functional medicine work, and how do you figure out the roots of the problem?
Yeah. So we use a couple of ways of understanding that. First, I think that the most valuable one is this timeline that we use. So when we're in a visit, we're asking you lots of questions, really going back to how you were born. Were you regular delivery, or was there a C-section? Were you breastfed? Were you formula fed? What kind of family environment did you grow up in? Do you know even if your mom had any traumas or stresses when she was pregnant with you? Did she take any medications or anything else? So we're really looking at that early developmental component, and then taking all the pieces of the history as kind of building up the story of your life and your health life. Because oftentimes, when you go to see the doctor, we just sort of get this snippet of information. 4 weeks ago, I started having these symptoms. This is how I feel right now. And then we make a decision based on those small pieces of information gathered over time, right? So every time you go to the doctor, a little piece of information is brought together. In functional medicine, we want to really go back and look at the whole course of how your body has been over your lifetime, because a lot of times these things that we're dealing with in our health have started many years before they're going to show symptoms. And so we want to understand, well, what was the terrain? What was happening in a person's, life at that time? Were there any big stresses, any big triggers that kind of kicked their body into this type of issue? And what was your day-to-day life like? What was your lifestyle of eating and sleeping and movement? So that we can pull the whole timeline together, and then we can start to find the specific points that will make the most impact for you. So, if you were having a lot of digestive problems, this might have started, after having an infection. Maybe you had traveler's diarrhea, and then since then, your digestion hasn't been the same. So we think, okay, well, the microbiome was shifted in some way at that point. We'd like to see where your microbiome is right now. What are the foods that you're eating? Are you digesting those foods? I mean, there's a lot that you can tell from a stool test to understand, well, this is the starting point where we are now, and how do we just repair that gut for you to help you get back to a baseline and not have these digestive problems that have been going on for a while.
Can you explain a little bit more about microbiome? Because some people may not understand that.
Yeah, so we have a plethora of different organisms that we're learning about more and more each day, a combination of bacteria, viruses, yeast, that are normal to be in your gut. And everyone is a little different on what their microbiome is, what that combination of bacteria. We do know a few families like lactobacillus family, bifidobacter, that most people carry, and that, are mostly beneficial to us. And then, then you can pick up other things as you go along. Parasites can be in the gut that you've had from traveling or eating a certain food, maybe a meat that wasn't cooked very well. And then overgrowth of yeast. So yeast is normal to be in your gut, but you don't want to have certain types, and you don't want to have an overgrowth of those yeast. And then depending on the food that you eat, certain organisms are going to thrive a little bit more because of those foods. So, if you have a little more sugar in your diet, you're going to have some microbiome bacteria that are going to show that. And if you eat a more plant-based diet, you're going to have a different type of microbiome. So it's really this ecology that's in your body, not only in your gut, but really everywhere. We're learning there's a microbiome in the lungs, the nasal pharynx has a microbiome, your skin has a microbiome. So, we're learning which organisms are there and benefiting us and how to keep that balance.
Interesting. I listened to a podcast recently with Dr. Jay Lombard. I don't know if you ever heard of him. He's in New York, and he has recently discovered that there's Parkinson's and some brain disorders that he thinks it's from the microbiome in the gut that's eventually leaking into the brain and causing these things. And they used to think that these kind of things didn't cross the blood-brain barrier, and they are. So
yeah, there's actually a clinical trial that's happening here in San Diego at UCSD, where they're looking at the microbiome and Parkinson's disease. Because a lot of the early symptoms for Parkinson's can be related to constipation. They're trying to look and see, is there a microbiome shift, and what's the gut-brain connection, and what happens to the dopamine receptors in the brain? And yeah, so there's a lot of work to be done. I mean, it's a fascinating area and very hopeful for us because, ultimately in integrative and functional medicine, we want to put food as medicine. Hippocrates said that many, many, many years ago. And it's really how we want to reorient people, is to, have healthy food in their diet, use food to help kind of manage the different conditions that we see today.
But even in autism, changing diet helps kids, through their gut. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing what food can do. But you even take functional medicine a step further. You combine medical research with cutting edge technology. We met in February at the Flow Genome Project retreat, and you were one of the lecturers, and many of the technologies you use, we all in the group are now using. Oura Ring, the Muse, the Heart Math. I wear my Oura Ring every day, and I think all of us do. And it's tracking our sleep, our deep sleep, many things that other things don't do. I even see that Oura is doing a study on the coronavirus. How do you think these technologies help us and enhance our wellness, and how can we use them?
Yeah, I think they're great to understand ourselves a lot more. It's always, gathering a lot of data and data points helps us to understand trends. So I think the day-to-day variations, I try to kind of step back, and when you have other pieces of data pulled together over time, it's really kind of the trend that's very helpful for us to understand. So yeah, I love different sensors. I think continuous glucose monitors will probably be part of our daily living shortly, and that will be able to understand what drives your high blood sugar and why you're having that, so that we can postpone and avoid people developing diabetes. Oura is fantastic for looking at sleep and heart rate variability, resting heart rate, core body temperature is where they're using, trying to look for early sensory changes that would indicate someone is coming down with a viral infection. And I think having these types of sensors kind of in wide use will help us in the future for these types of infectious things that we'll deal with, so that we have better parameters and we can intervene much earlier for people. So all of these different types of sensors inform you as to how well your body is doing right now. What are the lifestyle things that you can incorporate day to day and create a habit around that's going to move the needle for you? It's going to help you achieve better health. It's going to help you feel better over the long run. So if you're finding that your heart rate variability is not optimal and your nervous system is out of balance, your sympathetic drive, which is your fight or flight, is kind of overpowering that parasympathetic, it's a time for finding the recovery that you're needing. Maybe it's doing more of the meditation, maybe it's doing some deep breathing exercises, being in nature a little bit more to calm you down. Especially with COVID right now, I think, a lot of us are feeling more anxious and more concerned because of all the uncertainty and the changes that happen day to day. So it's a really good time for us to dive into these types of practices, and it can take a form, any form you like. It doesn't have to be a sitting meditation. It could be listening to, powerful music that soothes you. There are lots of recordings of binaural beats that just help the brain get into a more relaxed, waves to relax you in a deeper sense and help you with this uncertainty and anxiety. There's some new tools. I just ordered. There's a bracelet that's coming out. They were in production earlier, and they're going to be starting up production again in the end of May. That's for anxiety. Just it has an element of touch to it to help calm the nervous system down. So I'm going to be trying that out to use with patients, and advise people to try that out as well.
If there was one piece of technology you would think would be good for people to get right now, would it be the Oura Ring?
Yeah, I think the Oura Ring is fantastic. It has a lot of those sensors to help you with early detection, and sleep is a huge component of your immune system. So getting some data on your sleep is key.
It's funny, both my husband and I have the one, and when we wake up in the morning, we compare. How was your REM? How was your this? Like, we compare, we're like, who's better? Wait, I got one more minute of deep sleep than you did. But it's interesting to just look at it every day. Mine seems pretty constant, except for sometimes in the sleep. But I love being able to track it. Probably there's about 1 million confirmed cases of COVID-19. What way can functional medicine or holistic medicine do for people? Besides this technology, is there things that people should be doing every day to help them get through this?
Yeah. This is a really great time to focus on your lifestyle and getting clear on good, healthy lifestyle habits. So, if you're a smoker, thinking about quitting smoking, cutting down on any alcohol, getting into a healthier diet. So a lot of us are cooking at home, experimenting with more vegetable-based diet, because the fiber and the phytonutrients you get from plants are huge to support your nutrition, which gives you antioxidants, which also is providing, different minerals to help support your immune system as well. Sleep, getting into a circadian rhythm. Most people, we're not traveling and we're not going to different cities all the time. So it's a great time to get into a rhythm of sleep. Circadian. Another reason I like Oura is because of the reminder of circadian rhythm, trying to get you to go to bed the same time, get up the same time. There's a lot of value to that. Getting outside and getting some sunlight in your eyes to start your day, get a little vitamin D from being outside. All of these are great habits. And then exercise, a lot of us, have a hard time fitting in a regular routine of exercise. Now there are lots of different apps that are online. A lot of them are free, giving you a chance to try something out that you feel like you could stick with. We know that people who have chronic conditions, high blood pressure and diabetes or obesity, have more concern around getting the virus and getting sick with COVID-19. But having a healthier lifestyle and establishing now are really important.
My hopes with this, it's horrible, but I think people hopefully will start to learn that they really need to take control of their health, and that, these things, it's being harder hit on these people who have these underlying conditions. And if they could change those conditions, then they could survive something better than they did before. Hopefully they'll take note of that.
Right. It's a devastating condition. It's really, this has shaken up the whole world. And as physicians, it's hard for us to be in a position to not have an answer. And so I think that's been a really big challenge. I'm thankful to all the, doctors, nurses, and all the people in the hospital who are there and serving and helping all the patients who've come through. It's not an easy position to be in. And anything that we can do to support ourselves to stay healthy, anything we can do to support the medical community at this time to provide wellness for them as they're dealing with this very stressful situation, I think is of the most important.
Are you seeing patients right now, or has you hauled off your practice because of COVID-19?
I've switched entirely to telehealth.
And have any of your patients come down with the virus?
Thankfully, no. We've been doing a lot of nutrient support, food as medicine, sleep, kind of a lot of reinforcement in that way. So thankfully, none of them have.
So recently, you took a job at the Human Longevity Corporation in San Diego. What can you explain what you do there and what the focus of the company is?
Yeah, so the company is focused on helping more people understand their health and understand any risk factors to their health and to live healthy to 100 and plus. So, we're looking to do a full evaluation, whole body MRI. We do some really extensive testing, including your whole genome, to look and see, what are the risk factors for you for any of the chronic conditions that can prematurely cause end of life. So we want people to stay healthy. We want them to age in a healthy way. And we want them to avoid having cancer or having heart disease by doing much more extensive screening earlier on.
What are some of the new advances in longevity?
There's a lot. There are a lot of really interesting, programs and trials that have been going on. A lot of research in the area of longevity as we change kind of our mode of thinking. That that the inevitable situation is that you're going to deteriorate as you get older, which that story is changing rapidly. We're looking at how do we turn on more of the healing mechanisms for health. And this, again, is where things like lifestyle choices of sleep, movement, stress management, and food make a big difference. I mean, most of the time, if you read any books about aging or articles about aging, it's mostly talking about lifestyle and how that determines how well we do as we go through life.
So some of those articles out there and things that are going on are done by David Sinclair. Is this his real science, or is it bunk, or do you?
It's real science. It's great. It's great. I loved his book. I thought it was really informative, great way to introduce people to this new way of thinking, and helping people to change the paradigm. I mean, there's some really interesting work that's going on all over the world, trying to understand, well, how do we help ourselves to stay healthy? I mean, part of that is helping the environment to stay healthy so that, we're existing as one. So keeping our oceans clear and keeping our soil clean and supporting our health as well as the Earth's health is hand in hand. So I think, he made that point in the book as well.
Well, when you talk about microbiome in the gut, there's also microbiome in the soil. And if the soil isn't healthy, then our food isn't healthy, and then it gets into us and we're not healthy. So it's a big cycle.
Yep, exactly.
So do you think there'll be a time when we'll live over 100 or over 200? Do you think there'll be that magic pill?
I think getting to 100 will be much easier shortly. Getting to 200, there is a plausibility to it. There are, again, a few things we need to take care of environmental wise, and how we live our day-to-day life. I think we'll need to change in order to get to that 200, but I think the possibility is there.
One of the good consequences of COVID is that our air is getting cleaner, but everyone's like, oh, it's so good for the environment. But I also see it as now everybody's using plastic more. They're getting packages at the door. There's so much garbage being created right now. So it's kind of like a scale that goes up and down. And I hope when this ends that people will see environmentally what's important, and also how important our farmers are, because they see that, people are sick in these meatpacking plants and people want to get their stuff locally and be trusted by the farmers. And, I hope with this it will get a change, and, maybe they'll eat better and exercise more and live to over 100.
I hope so too. I do hope so.
Is there one area you think people would be best to invest their time and energy to extend their life?
Yes, sleep. Sleep has become my sort of mantra, because it's so easy with technology to mess up our sleep and to forego rest. And so I think that it's, again, the research continues to build day to day of how important sleep is.
Okay, sleep. So how do you get a good night's sleep? Like, I try, and especially, being over 50, menopause doesn't help. There's so many factors to try and get a good night's sleep. And I try, and some nights it just doesn't work. Do you have suggestions to get a good night's sleep?
Yeah, I mean, again, trying to establish a rhythm will help your body greatly, because you'll get these certain hormonal signals from melatonin being released at the right time, cortisol coming down. So trying to be off of devices earlier, using blue blocking glasses so you're not messing with the blue light, messing with your melatonin, eating a meal earlier, at least 2 to 3 hours prior to going to bed. That also helps to follow the circadian rhythm of your insulin levels. So insulin at nighttime starts to go down, and sort of essentially telling your body it's time to shut down a little bit and take a rest. So again, not having this big meals at night or a lot of alcohol at nighttime. Some people are using the alcohol to relax from the day. That can interfere with our sleep as well. And then just, having some kind of gentle, relaxing habits, turning the lights down a little bit more, reading books instead of looking at tablets and devices at nighttime. It's not going to be perfect. My nighttime routine is not always perfect either. I have twins who are turning 8 soon. And so, we have nights where things are a little bit more chaotic and harder to do. But I think the more you can have a little bit of a rhythm, the better it can be. So not to be harsh on ourselves, but really just to gently include different habits on a regular basis, because that's what sort of builds in these lifestyle tracks that help us improve our health.
What do you think about cannabis or melatonin to help sleep?
Melatonin is great to kind of induce sleep. It's not going to make you fall asleep or stay asleep. It can help you to get tired, but it doesn't help you to necessarily stay asleep. Cannabis can help a lot. A lot of my patients use it. It works well for them to sleep. I also like things like valerian, lemon balm, Ashwagandha can help people to relax, to get to sleep. L-theanine is another one. Phosphatidylserine. I mean, there's kind of a whole group of different supplements that just help the body to relax. Another really good one is magnesium threonate. So magnesium threonate crosses the blood-brain barrier and helps the brain to relax. So it can help you get into a deeper, restful sleep. So those are, and then just regular magnesium too can also just be enough for a lot of people to help them to relax. It's a great relaxant for the nervous system and cardiovascular system. So that's another one that can be helpful. Even Epsom salt baths, you'll get the magnesium from the salts, and that will help to relax your system before bed. But I think the bigger component that we all face is light. We have all these lights around our house. We've got blue light from a TV or from a computer screen or an iPad, and the stimulation from the light really throws our body off. So it's really trying to be more cognizant about how you light your house in the evening. How do you kind of use devices, and are you wearing blue blockers or other things to help with that?
It's so funny that you say about light, because my husband thinks I'm crazy because I have to put a sticker over the DVD player and everything. Any little light in the room will wake me up. And he's like, it's like Princess in the Pea, and I'm Princess in the Light. Like, I'm like, I can't take it. He's like, he just out cold, and I see the light. What about GABA to help you sleep?
GABA can be helpful. It doesn't help everyone, but it can be helpful to help you fall asleep. There are some liquid ones that I like that can be really useful.
So go ahead.
I was just going to say, I usually start with magnesium is my first thing to recommend. A lot of people are low in magnesium. If they're not taking it, that's like the first one that I'll recommend is to try magnesium, and then start to kind of use some of the other supplements on top of that.
Well, this is great, and I've taken a lot of your time. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us? Or, as I see, you have many abbreviations at the end of your name. Can you tell me what they all mean?
Yeah, they're certifications. So first is for family medicine, and then for integrative and holistic medicine, and then for functional medicine. So these are all different certifications that I've done. But what I would like to share is really, please take the time to take care of yourself. I mean, it's important to learn self-care. We're not really taught how to do that as we're growing up, and oftentimes we feel it's self-indulgent, but it's so important for your vitality over your lifetime, to keep your family healthy, to keep your relationships healthy. When you feel good, it's a game changer. Your whole interaction with people around you, how you approach your work, how you parent, how you interact with your partner is so different when you feel really good. And that's what I hope for more people to feel better most of the time.
Well, thank you so much. And I really appreciate your time. And hopefully I'll be back out at the Flow Genome Group next year, and you will too. We get to do this retreat again.
I hope so too.
All right. Thank you, and be well.
Thank you. You too. Take care.
And now we are at the Book to Plate segment of Eat Well, Travel Often podcast. Here, I report back to you my personal experience. It could be a cookbook I cook from, a restaurant I ate at, even a place I recently visited. If you have any suggestions, please reach out to me. Last year, after I finished listening to a book in Audible, I noticed my husband had downloaded Stealing Fire: How Silicon Valley, the Navy SEALs, and maverick scientists are revolutionizing the way we live and work, by Jamie Weil and Stephen Kotler. I knew nothing about the book at the time. I Googled and read up on it, and it sounded fascinating, so I started listening to it, and I was hooked. When I asked my husband why he downloaded it, he said one of his clients recommended the book to him. The client said, if you want to hack your mind to intentionally achieve super high performance, this was the Bible. The client was in the psychedelics industry, and Stealing Fire was mandatory reading for anyone who aspired to work with or for his company. So my husband bought the book, and it unintentionally changed my life. In a nutshell, Kotler and Weil studied the relationship between altered states of peak performance, otherwise known as flow. They define flow as the optimal state of consciousness where we feel our best and perform our best. It is the time where action and awareness merge. All sense of self and time vanishes. Who wouldn't want to perform in flow? Initially, the two had known flow from action sports. Kotler wrote the book, The Rise of Superman, about neuroscience of peak performance in action sports, athletes that push the edge. But after the release of The Rise of Superman, Wheeler and Kotler kept meeting people who were able to reach flow in other ways. To research stealing fire, the two spent 4 years investigating groups like Navy SEALs, Silicon Valley executives, attendees at Burning Man, and Nike's innovation team who appear to be able to hack their minds to solve critical challenges and outperform the competition. What Weil and Kotler discovered was that all these groups were able to boost their performance by altering their states of consciousness. The question they asked was, how can we lead richer, more productive, more satisfying lives? What can we all do? The book is made up of 3 parts: an exploration of what is ecstasis, as they define as the elevated mental state of flow, and why it's so hard to get. Then the book describes the 4 ways in which you can find ecstasis: psychology, neurobiology, pharmacology, and technology. The final section, they explore how ecstasis can be sustainable given the risks associated with some of the techniques used. After listening, I was hooked into what they were saying and started reading, researching, and listening to anything the two had to offer, which eventually led me to head out to California for the Flow Genome Project retreat with Jamie Weil, and have been participating in his coaching program ever since, expanding my understanding of myself, my place in the world, and how to become, as Jamie says, a homegrown human. I highly recommend this book for those interested in human brain and consciousness. It has led me on a new and fascinating journey of discovering new tools to optimize myself, my life, and my community. Thank you, Dr. Mona, for taking the time to speak with me. I love speaking with you and hope to see you in person again soon. To find out more about Dr. Mona and functional medicine, head over to my website, eatwelltraveloften.net, to see all the show notes. Please follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Eat Well Travel Often Podcast, and drop me a note at melissa@eatwelltraveloften.net. I would love to hear any recommendations, reviews, or suggestions. And please subscribe to Eat Well Travel Often Podcast on Apple Podcasts. Eat well, be healthy, and be safe.